Welcome to the Confessions of a Group X Instructor podcast. For group exercise junkies and enthusiastic classgoers, we'll explore and uncover authentic, thought-provoking, and heartwarming industry education and inspiration from entertaining, badass fitness pros. And now your host, creator of Warrior Rhythm, Warrior Strength, Warrior Combat, Warrior Revolution, and Warrior Kids Group fitness brands, Ellen DeWord. Here we grow.
Welcome, everybody, to Confessions of a Group X Instructor podcast. I have Heather Gardner on with us today. Hi, Heather.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So we're going to jump right in and tell people who you are and why you're here. But before we kind of go into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I want the audience to know that the whole reason I started a podcast is actually because of Heather. It's true.
Yes, and you were on my podcast to start, and yeah, that's the Confessions of a Group X Instructor was born in one of our chats before a training. In fact, I think
it was, and we even came up with the title together, the name of name. Like, I don't even remember. Maybe you came up with the name of it.
I think we were just like roundtabling, and I'm like, you have so many stories. We should call it Confessions because there are so many stories that we have.
I know. It's just been such a cool show. Like, we've had so many different guests on from so many different backgrounds and walks of life. And your story is pretty incredible. And you are so incredible. And I love you with my whole heart. And I love that we get to spend a little time together on this show. And I think a lot of our audience actually knows who you are. Because we have a lot of warriors that listen, and we've enjoyed following your amazing successes. So Heather and I met through fitness at a mega PiYo instructor training that I think Chalene Johnson was leading. Were we in Indianapolis? Where were we?
It was Nashville. It was a Beachbody Summit, and it was right before a summit. And yeah, it was right before beach. Yeah, it was Chalene and Becca and you were the ones that were leading my group because we kind of like broke off because there were so many of us. I was kind of like already fangirling over you two anyways, just because like I had seen the way you move, and it was like PiYo getting certified. That was kind of like my group fitness, my introduction to group fitness anyways, like teaching, and it kind of like took off from there. So
that was the first format you really started with, I think.
That was it. That was my first format that I ever got certified in.
Okay.
So the hardest one.
You're right. If you can teach PiYo, you can teach anything. So if the audience, if you happen to live under a rock and don't know who Chalene Johnson is, follow her immediately.
Her energy.
Immediately. And she is such a big deal. She created PiYo, and her instructor training in Nashville was so huge that for that pre-con certification, there were so many people there, like literally probably 1,000, that master trainers, which I was one of, and Becca Jackson was one of, we were like responsible for like little groups of like 20 people that we would like, everyone was like sectioned off, and Chalene led the training day, but the master trainers would help in these more manageable sized groups. And that's how we met Heather, but I didn't really like remember you.
Well, because there was like, I think there was like 12 in our group, and you were like making sure everybody like learned their counts. Because we're like, new to, like this is like newbie land. So you did a good job, because here I am, like how many years was it later that we all three reunited to present Warrior Rhythm to a room full of.
I know. And like, interestingly, I'm actually going to present in Nashville in December. So like, what a full circle, like what a turn of events. Who would have known life would have unfolded like the way.
Join you for that one.
So
precursor.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So actually, this talking about how we met and everything, and how I didn't totally put two and two together with who you were, this actually is going to segue into what we're going to be talking about today. And I years after that training, I was following you. Like we probably did like the social media
Yeah.
connect. And then like, I didn't put two and two together over the years that transpired necessarily, but I was following you. Like I knew who you were through social. And
Yes.
then I saw that your husband had passed away. And there was a GoFundMe, and I remember just seeing that it was a PiYo sister, that this PiYo instructor, this young, beautiful woman, had lost her husband. And so I remember like sharing that post with people, putting it in the PiYo group for, so that other people would see it, that a master trainer was posting it. And then fast forward a few more years after PiYo Live closed its operations, you, because we didn't like connect even after that. So I just knew you were this young widow. And then when I started to post, when I created Warrior Rhythm, like you were there from literally day one. You reached out to me and you're like, I'm there. Like it was the very first live in-person certification ever. We were still in the pandemic wearing masks. And I remember in Eugene, they were way more like, wear your mask, don't ever breathe without.
Covered.
Right. Like you can't let it come down off your nose even 1 millimeter or you'll get kicked out of the gym. Whereas it was more lax where you were from. So I just remember you coming, I'm like, sorry, Heather, you actually like have to like strap it down like real tight. But it was just sorry, we digress. It was during the pandemic, like towards the end of the pandemic, when we were able to do an in-person, when gyms were all open again and all that stuff. And you came to Eugene and you did both rhythm and strength. You did both trainings like a
Back days, yeah.
and then started, not only teaching our formats, but also being an incredible part of our video talent team. So our warrior instructors have seen Heather, film the instructor content. So anyway, so tell us about like your story in fitness. Obviously, it started with PiYo, and then um, take us through the loss of your husband.
So it's kind of funny because like PiYo and Luke even go hand in hand. So just touching on like getting certified and teaching. I had my own studio for a while and I taught classes every single day, sometimes twice a day. And Luke at night was always there. So he was always around my PiYo classes, always did them with me. I was kind of like always around for that. So when he passed away, it was really hard for me for a moment to get back into teaching, which I can like or loop back around on, but it was also the thing that brought me, a lot of joy. So he was so intertwined with my instructing, like was always there. So that was, he was just always such a huge point. But he passed in an accident and it was just very sudden, kind of PSA, always wear a life jacket. It was very quick. It happened in the river. And there was people, 10 feet away on a bank. So it was one of those things that you never expect. It was during COVID. It was June 26th of 2020. And we were just trying to go to the river and enjoy some time. He had just started going back to work. So I just got off work and we went to the river. We were there for maybe 30 minutes. And I was on a kayak with our youngest, who was like a year and a half at the time. And it was like some weird undertow. So when we got kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. It just kind of like flipped the kayak. It was kind of like a cyclone underneath the water that you don't see. And it flipped our kayak and he jumped in the water to grab the baby who had a life jacket on. And I started realizing that when the kayak came back around, it like went underneath, like it flipped. In my mind, I was thinking my kayak just got like eaten like the Titanic. Like it was flipped upside down and went underneath the water like the Titanic. Like it was like you'd see in a movie. And I knew right then and there that like something was underneath the water pulling, and I just kind of got sucked under. And we were both fighting. I didn't even realize that he was gone until after I had already been pulled out onto the bank after fighting being sucked underneath the water several times. It wasn't till someone comes running up to me and said, "Where is Luke?" And I was started screaming his name. I thought for sure he was just down the bank. I don't even remember him not coming out of the water. And I just start running back to my car. And I called my friend who was drove an ambulance at the time. And I was like, people come up all the time at the river, right? Like you just, like, how long can people like, and she ended up, everything kind of blurred after that very quickly, but she ended up showing up with her, she was on at work. So her ambulance came right away. And I don't know, God's hand or whatever you believe, like that day, like we were surrounded by people, as horrible as it was. The sheriff that was there was a cheer dad that we had known that was like, he knew the kids. It just all happened very quickly, but he had been sucked underneath the water and was kind of trapped underneath that same area that we went under initially and just never came back out. So it just happened in very quickly. And my whole world was just completely ripped from me in a matter of seconds.
And you guys went to the water all the time together.
All the time. And that's what's like so hard is like our memories on that exact same river at that exact same point. But where like we floated the river all the time there. I mean, I'm a really strong swimmer. We were always there. And there was like the bank was full of people.
Right.
And it was, so it's just like, you don't, it's just how it so happened. Later on, that area, that one spot in particular is very, very dangerous. Somebody else had passed away 24 hours later in that exact same spot. And this year alone, well, every year there are several people. So when the dam is open in this one particular area, the way the rock formations are, there's like it must create something that's kind of like
that cycle. Yeah.
And you don't see it from the top.
How you can't know it's there?
No. And he was filming us. This is on his phone. He was videoing us because I was with Kinsley, and he throws his phone down and gets in the water. But like,
what?
Yeah. And you cannot see anything on the water. It just is weird. It's like, and it was all of a sudden like it tipped me really, because I've been on a kayak. We're gonna launch Warrior on the Water one day. I'm very good on the water. So it was very out of character. It was something I could never explain, which is why like water safety is so.
How can they leave that area still open? Like,
so because Idaho is like a swim at your own risk area. So they don't have to, and we've tried. So I have yet to go back to that spot.
I remember that you also, first of all, it's crazy how relatively recent this is. Like 2020.
Yeah, so it's been 4 years, just a little over 4 years.
So fresh when you came back into my life. Like I didn't even
very, very new. Like it was like 6-ish months, because it was even a full, because it was like New Year's. I feel like it was in January or February or something like that of 2021, right?
You're right, it was January.
Yeah. And what it was is you'd popped up on a reel, and I was like looking for something else because I had started, which
you were gonna get back into like
yes. Yes. And you know how like there was no really options, and I had to, when you teach, like that many times a week, you exhaust the old format. So
right.
That's kind of connected. But you had reached out to me. You reached out to me and sent your condolences, and I said thank you. And that was some of my first movements after that of actually feeling somewhat normal again, was your old Kayo videos that I just would follow along to because I could turn my brain off and just.
Yeah. So, I mean, you always went to the lake. You go to the lake this one day, you're kayaking.
Oh, it's the river. Yeah, on the river, Spokane River. The Spokane River over by Corbin Park, which is, so if anyone's over in the area, that's the area that's particularly, and you can look up in the news. It's in Post Falls.
I remember I like actually Googled it to read you can read like the article.
There's news articles, there's some.
And Kinsley was 1.5.
Yeah. So she's born in September. So she wasn't, yeah, she wasn't.
Did she just start kindergarten this week?
Oh my gosh, she did. Today is her day. And she loves it so much. She's actually very upset that tomorrow's late start and the bus is coming an hour later instead of an hour earlier.
Oh, so I just realized that, oh, that's so cute. So she doesn't homeschool because your other kids did homeschool.
They did for a while. And no, they're all back in school. We have
Yeah, right. I knew they were. But so she's the only one that didn't experience homeschool life.
the only one.
Okay.
She thrives at school. She
So,
loves it.
I mean, you are like honestly the most amazing mother. You are just an incredible mom. And you're also a professional athlete now. We should like tell them a little bit about that. We'll do a whole entire show about that. But Heather just got her pro card.
Right there. It's already framed up on the wall. Yes, it's so weird to say I am an IFBB wellness pro. So I am a professional athlete, and that I get tingles when I think about it. Like
I got tingles on my both legs, just fully covered in goosebumps right now because I'm so proud of you. Like I think like I can't believe what you have gone through and how, which is what we're here to talk about today. Like this is what we're here to talk about. And I just cannot believe that you lost your spouse, like the person that you chose to be your family, to have a family with, the person you chose to spend forever with, and that they got yanked out of your life instantaneously. And I'm sure like that. How old were you at the time? Like
I'm 34.
I'm sure you never even fathomed waking up and losing him at that age ever, you know?
You never think about that. Like I remember vividly, we had a friend whose husband was like a professional mountain climber. And like, so like when you're climbing like Everest and things like this, like there's risk. And I remember he had passed away and I just looked at him and I was like, you can never, like I remember it so vividly, sitting on the couch with him and I looked at him and I'm like, you can never leave me. Like leave me alone with all these kids that you just can never leave me. I can't.
You said that too?
I said that to him and he's like, I'm going nowhere. And he is actually a hero too. He was inducted into the Carnegie Hero. He is a hero for saving Kinsley, and he was inducted into their memorial. So
how did he? So when the kayak flipped,
yeah,
how did he get her out?
So he jumped in the water and grabbed her by her life jacket and got her
in the water already? Did she fall in?
Yeah. So as the kayak flipped over, I was in the water. I popped up.
Everyone fell in the water.
I like swooped underneath the kayak to see if she was underneath, just to make sure, because I was still like just popped up. She wasn't there. I saw her come by. He had already jumped in the water, and my mom was there with Lily on the bank watching all this, and she was screaming. So I'm getting sucked under the water. Braden was behind me on a open bay kayak, and Luke had got her to Braden. Braden was trying to get to me, and I had pushed his kayak away because I was afraid of him getting into the same area that I was at.
Yeah.
And so he had like lost his paddle in the midst of like trying to help me, and grabbed onto her life jacket and just held on and floated down screaming, save my sister, save my mom, and held on to her until somebody got them.
So you are in the water, you swept under to see if Kinsley had gotten underneath the kayak. You see her coming by, and you see her to Braden, and you like pushed them away.
At this point, Luke had jumped in, and she had kind of already started moving. So I just had assumed. I went to go look for the kayak. That's when it sank all the way. And by the time I had already started getting sucked under. So all this is happening. I didn't know about Braden Tate holding on to her or anything like that until days later when I had, my mom, because my mom was watching all this. She was right there.
You didn't see any of that happening because you were being pulled under.
Yeah, I thought I was dead. There was one point that I had opened, I had big eyelashes at this point. So opening my eyeballs in water was like, this is like, extreme. So I'm like opening my eyes, trying to figure out how, because I have no more air left, and I'm trying to see like, can I see light? Like how much further till I'm at the top? Because yes, and there was no light. I could see nothing, and I was just like,
legs are just trying to kick.
Yes, I'm like going, I just remember treading and just trying to get up. Like you were just like if you were to jump in the bottom of a pool and you're just fighting to get, it was just like, I'm just trying to go up. But at this point, then I open my eyeballs, there's like nothing. There's just black. And I remember thinking, this is it. Like this is because I have no more air. Like I just remember I had no more air. And everything kind of just started going black. And then I hit air. I hit surface. I grabbed air and then I kind of went back under, and I did that. I remember at one point I screamed, call 911. I went back under the water. One of our friends that was with us, he was like, Eddie out, like trying to get me like to kind of like getting on your back to try to get out of, he knew what I was in. He knew that it was like, he actually got out of the water to not help, and don't blame them for any sort of, I know he feels completely awful, but he was trying to help.
I was going to ask, what about all the people standing there? Were they trying
Both of them just did nothing. I don't know. No.
Probably were in shock. Like they probably just froze.
I mean, I don't know. There was a boy that came when I'd finally kind of like broken out of whatever it was, and kind of, there was a kid that was coming running. He was like a teenager, probably Braden's age, running with like a tube and like a rope around it. I had kind of gotten out by that time, and he kind of like pulled me up on, because by the time I had gotten out of the cyclone is how I refer to it, and started floating kind of down the river-ish, like getting momentum away from that area, I just started like kind of passing out. Like I was exhausted. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like your just body just kind of gives out. Like you're just fatigued.
And so then you just, you didn't realize immediately.
I started throwing up. Because I'm like, obviously at this, my body's going through whatever. So I start throwing up as I'm on the ground. And what was that, Braden? I believe it was Braden. Braden said, where's Lukey? Like, where's Luke? And I just said, what do you mean? He's right there. And then I just started screaming, because I screaming for him, thinking he must be like I am. You know, he made it out that way. Because I didn't remember him. There was one point where he kind of tried to grab me, I thought, to help pull me out. And I was like, I'm fine, because I thought we were both pulling each other under. But like, I couldn't see anything or feel like everything happened so quickly. And water is like dark and dangerous, and you can't see anything. And it's like so disorienting. So the last thing I remember was just him kind of like grabbing me is what I thought. And I was kind of like, but I thought he was trying to help me. I mean, because I was screaming at the same time. So he had gotten Kinsley over to Braden.
It's interesting. So he must have gotten out of the undertow, or it was before the undertow happened.
Yeah, got her before, because she was probably so light that she skirted around it.
Okay.
And went back for me, because I made him go, because I kind of pushed Braden away. He had to go swim to Braden to then come back to me. And I think when he got to me was when he got sucked under, because that's the last thing that I remember.
Did the kayak ever,
a week later, it washed up on somebody's porch or somebody's little thing area on the river. And it's funny. So the people, not funny, but ironic and weird. So the people who they lost, I know it was her father-in-law who passed the next day, and somebody brought the kayak to her thinking it was hers and the grandfather's, and she had messaged me. I'm like, no, you just go ahead and keep that kayak, no one wants that anymore. So yeah, it washed up later on, but not that day. It took them almost 2 hours to get to that, to find him from start to finish. I don't know how long it really was, but there was so much of a pressure that it took a minute to like get to his body or to find him.
Oh, I was actually just going to ask you, they found
he didn't like go anywhere. He was stuck in that spot.
He was stuck. So he was like underneath you.
Well, I had ended up down further. I was like kind of over in the ambulance, and I chose not to see him after that. So he didn't move though. Like his body didn't like go down the river. It was like stuck in that area.
How did you, his body came up?
No, it was down underneath in the water. So it was stuck. They got him. Like they dove for him right away. But it was like the suction of what was pulling us was so strong that he was stuck there and it was hard for them to retrieve him. Like it wasn't like normally you would just like, you throw something in the river or something. It's like it just floats. This is not like it was so much of a power, like it was so powerful in that area that it was hard for divers to even get in and out.
You and Kinsley and Lily and Braden all together, like
Braden was on an open bay kayak behind me, and it was like
after Braden had Kinsley,
yeah,
after when they found out he
but when I got out of the river, there was a cop and like I started throwing up, and then I realized something happened. Like at first, he had walked up to me, and I was like, "I'm fine." And then that's when I was like, "Where's Luke?" And I asked him to come back, and I'm like, "He's missing." So they had already had an ambulance. So somebody had called the cops, and they were there, and an ambulance was there because I had been screaming that I was, and so they had then initiated right away, immediately. Like there was already people there. So like and then I had called my friend to see and then she ended up showing up.
Okay. And so then when they found him, you just
chose. Yeah, I just chose not to. Then I know some people want to. That's just I saw him. It's just not, I don't know. I just believe your soul's attached to your body, and when your soul's not there, it's just not the same person. I just don't want to remember.
Yeah.
As that.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's so traumatizing to me, but yeah.
So then how did you get home?
So my friend Becca, who actually was one of the people that worked for the ambulance for EMS, I guess, she drove me. My mom came in her car, so then she just drove me home. And I had friends come over and sit with me, and there was several days of just sitting and staring and drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that you said that when we sort of reconnected around the time of the first warrior trainings, and it was, I guess, how long? A year after he passed, roughly, give or take, 6 months?
Yeah. Yeah. It was
end of June to January.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like 6-ish months.
I was gonna say it was definitely still a very raw.
It was very raw, very new.
You were podcasting on your Hot Widowed Mess.
Yes.
Do you still have that podcast?
Yeah, okay. I have not updated in a while, and I feel like I want to keep it, but I need to switch because I feel like now
maybe have a different season of it or something.
Exactly, because I'm I feel like I've entered a new phase, which it's so weird because it's still just as painful, and I have before Luke and after Luke in my mind, and that's what separates. And I'm also such a different person now. Sometimes I'm I don't know. It's just you change so much. In the beginning, it was a shit show. I don't know. Can I say that? Can I cuss?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was a shit show. I was which if you listen, I have not deleted any episodes of the early ones.
You were a mess. You were not even sober on some of them, right?
I was the majority of the first ones. I am not sober. And now that I am sober, going and listening back to them, they start out okay. And then they get Lacey was on them a lot with me too. We get a little more intoxicated as it goes on. It's funny. It's just a point in my life where I was using humor and deflection and also being really real. This is what I'm doing with my life right now. And if I can help someone else, because I felt there was no resources for a young widow. I got books and they were all for women who were in their 60s, retired already. None of them had children, and that's fine. And everyone goes through it. But the average age of a widow, I think, is 64. So it's I was 34 then. There was a book that I read, Hot Widowed Mess by Nora Borealis, and she was hilarious and she was funny, and she documented her book was just talked about being real and the shit she went through and that she thought about. And I was okay, I'm gonna be real and word vomit what's in my brain. And it was healing. It was healing for me to just even get it out and to be honest and to have somewhere that I could just this is what my life is right now. I don't know what it is. I don't want it. This is not what I wanted. All my plans are down the drain, because that's what it is. It's and me and Luke were together. I've known him since I was 14. We dated in like the early teens and then reconnected again in 20s and like had been together forever. We would have been married 10 years. And so it's like we were together a long time. So do you think like, and we had just had another baby, our last baby. And I remember being like, you're never leaving me now because I have her and we're not, I'm not doing this alone. There's three of them now. But it's like, you just don't expect that ever to do it alone. And I'm not taking anything away from single parents, but it's different being a solo parent than a single parent because I don't ever have anyone. This is like, there's no one else that loves your child as much as the other parent, you know what I mean? Or that will care. And step parents can, and it's totally fine. And there is that bond in that relationship. But there's just something like I always feel like I'm kind of missing that component, or like no one else really wants to hear all the things that I have, or you just kind of feel alone in that love. It's just how it is being a widow. I don't know. It is. It's just different. You just don't have solo parents. You just don't have that other person to.
Got you. Solo different than single parent. I got you.
There's just different struggles. So it's like, you don't ever want to do that. I don't know. It's just really hard. Your entire world is, and then you have to rebuild it.
I have a couple questions. So one, did you ever find young widows to connect to? Did you go to support groups? I know you did a whole bunch of different things to try to heal yourself. I know you've done a bunch of different treatments and therapies and stuff like that. Not just getting drunk on your podcast.
That was the early ones.
But did you ever find other women going through it or no?
I actually created my own community through Hot Widowed Mess. People were reaching out to me and I didn't expect that in the beginning. I didn't think people were actually going to listen to me or care, or other widows would find me, and they have, and they still do. Even though it's not new episodes, people are still finding it and reaching out to me, and I've still contact. So it's like that way I've met a few others, but still in my real life, no, not so much.
Okay. Well, there's one other that is a warrior, and you guys should connect at some point because
we have on social. So I need in real life, but we have on.
She's wonderful. Her husband died of pancreatic cancer very, very, very quickly, pancreatic cancer, I believe. So yeah, I want you guys to connect. But so then you did start dating, and so that could be an interesting, maybe new chapter of your Hot Widowed Mess podcast that could be interesting to people, like, like what that's like. But I know that when you started dating Jordan, you still kept your wedding ring on. You still kept pictures of Luke all over the house. And so I think that that's really wonderful that, he never tried to swoop in and take away from your love and commitment to Luke, that you still, even though you're in a relationship, you still, I think it's really special the way you celebrate Luke. Still, your marriage, his birthdays, your anniversaries, his presence, his role in your life today.
Yes, that was like a very big thing with Jordan's very accepting, but there's still pictures all over my house of him. Those are never coming down. I will add to them, of course. But that was something that was never going to change in my life. I was always going to have that because I didn't choose to leave Luke. Luke didn't choose to leave me. So my love never dissipated. It's just like, and it never ends. You can't, like, that love never ends. It's just like, he's just no longer here in the physical. So having that supportive partner and not that there isn't like bumps and kinks in the road for me too, like it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve because it's hard going from like a super committed marriage to like dating again and like figuring that out.
Yeah.
Things go. But he's been amazing with the kids. That's one thing that I didn't know how that would go, right? Because that's something that I don't really have control over. And they just became like really good friends. And now they all have like such a close bond. Like Jordan and the girls have like a special bond, but then like Braden comes and lifts with us, and like him and Jordan lift and work out. It's really cute. Kinsley calls him, she goes, so I have a dad in heaven, so Jordan can be like my on earth dad, right? So she calls him her on earth dad, and it's the cutest thing.
Oh, That is so, so sweet. Well, your children are incredible. Like, I remember when I was meeting them for the first time, thinking, life is hard on kids, period. And it was like the pandemic was hard on kids. It's just hard to be a kid today, period. And these kids lost their dad, and I was overwhelmed by how incredible they were. I mean, they were just the sweetest kids, just the sweetest kids. And it was like, I don't know, Braden being the oldest, I felt like I could see him helping you, kind of like trying to be the dad and like helping with Kinsley, and in a way that like a boy his age shouldn't have to, but it was like, it was just incredible. They're special, like they're amazing. They're just special kids, and you could see their love for each other and their love for you, and it was really, really touching, because I'm sure it's been horrible for them.
Yeah, I think it brought us really close, like really close together. I think like our family was already pretty like small in general. Like we don't have a lot of extended family. We have our hand-picked family. But Braden, even now, he'll be 17 next week. And he is like he has the biggest heart. And the way he like dotes on his sisters or makes sure that Kinsley's okay, or like it's just yeah, no, he shouldn't have to do those things. But the fact that he does, it's like, we all go through things in life. And I think like that was such a huge major thing that we could all come together and kind of grow from it. And that, obviously there's still new things come up all the time. Sometimes they miss him more than others, but having cheer as an outlet, I think, is a huge thing for them too, being able to pour into that, but just all of us being together and grieving together.
I was going to ask for you to talk about their cheer, because they're basically like little professional athletes too.
Yeah, we are one day. Yeah, so they are elite all-star athletes. Braden is on a worlds team, so he's on a senior co-ed 6 worlds team, and Lily's on a junior 5 team. So we travel all over for them, and they compete at Summit and Worlds. They have for the last several years now. So Lily,
you travel as much as I do, but you're doing it for cheer.
Yes. I miss traveling with you too.
I know, we need to get you when things settle down for you. You got to come back on our little tour where we can be in our pajamas, jumping on the bed, making reels.
I love that. Of all of our reels.
Okay, this is for the sake of the audience. Heather and I love to do the kind of reels where you're like slummed out, and then we both like to dress up, like
turn it on.
All of it. Yeah, all of it. Everything. We like the lips, we like the lashes, we like the boobs, we like the heels. We like it all. So we like to put reels together like that, basically, when we see each other. But yeah. But you talked about, first of all, do you think Kinsley remembers much about Luke?
She does not, and it breaks my heart. I have photos of her and him, like big poster size ones of like him holding her and things like that. And I have like a blanket of him holding her. And so those are everywhere. His photos are everywhere. I show her videos every time. Facebook memories is like one of our favorite things to do every day, because we always all go back and look at all the memories. And he's like, you're going to laugh. Some of them I'll send you to, like our PIO class, after a picture, boomerangs and things. And it's just being silly. And he's in like all of them. And so we go through and we look at all of them every day in the morning.
That's a testament to your healing, that you can even look at your Facebook memories. You know what I mean?
It hits different now. Like, yeah, there was a time where I couldn't, or now there's still some things that's hard for me. Like I have his phone and I haven't been able to get all the pictures and stuff off yet. There are certain things I take it in chunks. I feel like, like opening up his t-shirts. I have a bin of like all of his shirts, and Braden was like, "Mom, can I wear them now?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then I'm like, this was just a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, it's weird. Like it's hard for me to just open it and get them out for some reason. I know it's going to bring a whole wave of
yes,
And I think, I stuff things a little bit. So it has to be like when I'm prepared to let it out. Yes, stuff.
Heather invented the stuff.
Stuff.
That's what we don't want to handle our.
No, it's not good.
No.
Don't do that.
Yeah, that's the point. Don't do that. No, so let's talk about, so how and when did you, I guess it was through Warrior that you found your way back to teaching, and sorry, those are my, if you're watching on Zoom, effects. How did you, I guess, do you have any advice for those experiencing loss, grief, the very, very, very small minority who experience, like, at a young age, the loss of a spouse? I mean, talk to us about, and I'm sure it's individual and unique, and the way you grieve and others grieve, like, I'm sure it's just completely a unique experience and comes out differently for different people. But how have you been able to navigate that in the context of like group exercise and teaching and stuff like that? Did you take like just like, I'm not doing anything, I'm not teaching, I'm not working? Did you ever like just
COVID? So I was teaching because of COVID.
Right.
It all happened, but yeah, I stopped like doing all my movement and stuff, right? So I stopped like working out. I stopped doing anything, but it was what brought me kind of like out of that initial like black cloud fog of like not leaving my bed was like I had a friend come over and was like, we're going running and by the river. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Like in my mind, I'm like, I'll just run until I want to like, puke, and I'll make myself hurt. At least then I'll feel like, physical pain, like I was just mentally being like to myself, right? But something like triggered when I like ran a little bit. I was like, okay, maybe I like that. So then she would come over and it was those little bits of running. And then I brought myself to put Pio in, like, it wasn't, I was like, okay, I can't do a class that I teach, but I'm going to like follow along. And it was you. And I was like, okay. And so I started doing it in my backyard with some of my friends first, so that I wasn't alone. And then just by myself. And it really, like with Ashley Torres.
My best friend.
Yes. And we would work out in my backyard. We would do Pio together because she was in my classes too. So it was like, okay, and it was, then I started feeling comfortable again without feeling like I just wanted to break down and cry. And it was like the movement while feeling the emotions was very healing for me. And I have found through my journey, for me in particular, like movement along with my feelings. I'm not someone that can just like, okay, we're going to sit and talk and I'm going to like cry. I'm going to stuff, but later on that it's going to come out. But if I can exercise, it releases that. I can think about it. I can feel it. And it does that with class. When I'm teaching, the emotions can come out. There's the, oh my gosh, the one song. I don't know. I've cried so much to the song while we're teaching. The one, yes.
I think is it the Zoe one?
Yes, that one. Oh. Not Rise Up.
No, it's not Rise Up. It's the Zoe Wees one, but it is, I can't listen to that song and not think of you to this day.
And that's the one that
look, she's like getting her phone, she's gonna play it.
I was like, that's one. Anyways, I was gonna look for the song, but that's the one. Yes, it partners with Rise Up. I will find it. It's right here. I know,
now I can't, you please do, because I won't be able to move on. Okay, and while Heather is like literally scrolling her phone for this song, what it was like lesson 5, maybe lesson 1, lesson 3,
something like that. Or no, it was more. It was. Where did it go? What is it? ZOIE?
No, it's ZOE, I think.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay.
Weiss. Okay, so while Heather's looking for this phone, I'm gonna thread the needle here.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, go.
Where'd it go? Wait. She just popped up. Oh my gosh, where did it go? It just brings up her and all of her other songs and not on my playlist. There we go. In my library, maybe? No, why is it not in my library? Okay. Hold on. I don't know where it is.
That's okay.
That song. Why can't I think of it?
I don't know, but I can think of the lyrics.
I have like, yes.
Now you're not gonna let it go.
No, I'm not. Oh, here it is.
What's it?
Hold me like you used to. Hold me like you used to. I think I even just said that a couple minutes ago.
Wait, play it a little more. That's your song.
This part. That part. Every
I would like tears would stream off my face thinking about you.
Becca, and I was crying while we were doing that for our newbies.
In the dark with the
Yes.
light down.
Mm-hmm. That song is very powerful, and the movement with it, it's just so freeing, so you can feel it. And so that for me,
That just
for me,
that much of the songs made you.
Yeah, it is. There's like certain things that like get me, and it still does, because I busted that song out several weeks ago, and it brought it all back, because I can just play it and then I can just start doing the movement. Like my body's just so, it knows what we're doing.
Yeah. So anyway, so Heather, I was gonna say while you were looking for the song that I think part of your process of change and grief and healing and surviving is getting into your bodybuilding. And so we are going to do another episode where we explore this whole new chapter of your life that because you used to, and I'm sure you don't mind me saying this, you once were overweight.
Yes.
You've gone from like overweight to being like an elite athlete. And so we are going to have a whole entire different episode with a completely different like tenor to it about the process and all of that. But would Luke be proud of you today? Like, would he even believe it?
Yeah.
Like, would he even like, what would his mind just blow?
Yes, I feel like, and I've thought about this, like when I introduce myself, like, hi, I'm your wife. But like I'm completely different. But because of him and because of losing him, I am a better person. Like I went through a really dark time after. I was able to pull myself out. Like it was a quick dark time. You and Warrior were such a, I don't even think you know this, instrumental part of my healing journey and just finding myself again and a new improved version of myself that I could be proud of. And that was something new, like it was a fresh start and a life that like I could really build and do something with. It was Warrior has given me so much purpose, and not to mention everybody that everybody in my class is like touching people and everybody loving it, like gives me so much purpose and my passion for it. But it has been the driving force since I got certified with you to keep me going, along with many other things. But it was that opened all the doors. You know what I mean? Like it was walking through the Warrior door and saying, yes, I want both of these and I'm going all in. And that opened everything else.
Yes. So we're going to hold off on the whole next episode stuff. So listeners, tune back in for the next like chapter of her life, which is mind-blowing. But do you have any, before you go into your confession, anything else you wanted to say to our audience that might be, or maybe they know someone and want to share the episode with someone who has experienced loss?
For people who are experiencing loss, grief, or any kind of grief, it could be, anything you can grieve so many different things. It does get better. It doesn't ever go away. It just changes. And I guess learning to feel the different emotions, because some days it's very overwhelming and it's very hard. But then when it's good, you feel good. Like there's highs and there's lows, and you'll learn to have memories, not learn to have memories. Eventually there'll be memories where you can smile and they don't hurt. It just changes. Your person will always be with you. And for people who want to support someone grieving, just show up, just be there. You don't even have to say anything, just show up. That was the biggest thing for me. I had friends that just showed up and would sit on the couch with me, because I was never going to ask anyone to come sit with me. I would never tell anyone I needed anything. It was just, I had a group of friends that would have meals every night for my kids at the doorstep, and someone would come and check on me. Someone would just sit with me for an hour. And that's all you have to do. Just show up. So I think that's probably it. And Luke would be so proud of me today. And weird to think that I'm older than him and now. So I think about that a lot too, like how he was only 36 and now I'm 38.
Okay, so where can people find you and follow you and see amazing, amazing fitness inspiration, amazing things you're doing in your life in fitness, not just with teaching, but with your wellness competitions too, and also your kids, because you do show great stuff with your kids.
So you can find me on Instagram at Heather underscore Gardner underscore IFBB Pro.
I saw that. I saw that.
Facebook Heather Gardner, and you can find Hot Widowed Mess on Instagram at Hot Widowed Mess. And I haven't taken anything down. So if you haven't seen my journey, the first season 1 and 2. So season 1 is just it's the rough season. Season 2 is more of my healing and treatment. And now we'll do a season 3, the new Heather. So that'll be coming out.
I feel like you're in a different place. It would be a different season. Yeah. And I think that would be so inspiring for people and give them hope, and also like cathartic still for you, because it's still fresh. 4 years is not that long, I'm sure. We forgot to do a confession.
Oh, we're doing it.
Forget the name of our show.
Okay. In regards to this podcast, I have so many confessions. I confess,
narrow it down.
No, in regards to this, our grief topic that we talked about, me and my widowed journey, my confession is I was committed by a friend to a hospital for 24 hours because I told her I hadn't brushed my teeth in several days, nor did I want to.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, she signed papers to have me like mandatory committed to make sure I wasn't gonna like.
Wait,
that's the thing. Don't ever say that you don't want to brush your teeth, because that's apparently a big red flag.
Red flag. It is. I think that is like a sign of like I've resigned. Like I've resigned myself. My will to live is gone.
Yes, I had a 24-hour vacation with.
I had no idea. And also, whoever that friend is, that is a good friend. Like that is a good friend. Were you mad about it?
Oh yeah. Because like, I don't think that I needed that. I felt like it was a little excessive.
I don't know. I feel like if you stop brushing your teeth, you've basically decided I'm not going to.
She signed my name on the papers to just put me in. And then this is another whole story. I have my side, there's her side, and then maybe there's something somewhere.
Is she allowed to sign you over?
No. She worked for the hospital, so maybe that was another thing. There's more to the story.
Oh my gosh! What is it?
Well, she was the one that was the EMT driver or whatever.
Okay.
Yes, and she like pulled up to my house one night, and I mean, it was fine. She was checking on me in her line of work. To be fair, in her line of work, but I was like, I'm just fucking sad. My husband died. You tell me you want to brush your teeth. I want to sleep. But anyways, yes. So it's kind of a joke now because I was sad. Don't ever be too sad, and make sure you brush your teeth. That's what I got out of it.
Not committed? Like, did they think you were suicidal?
Well, I guess it's just like a law in Washington. Like, you have to, but she did sign my name on something. So apparently I voluntarily committed, but she signed my name.
Do you mind? I'm sorry to take such a big turn, but did you ever feel like you don't want to go on, or no, because of the kids?
Yes, there was times. And okay, so this is why I obviously drank in the earlier parts. This is one reason why I stopped drinking, is because there was times that I had gotten drunk, and I don't remember this, but I was vocalizing that I didn't want to be here anymore. And I didn't remember that. And so I was like, if I can do that and not know I'm done drinking, and then started like diving more into those things, like, because I didn't trust myself in the beginning. I'm like, that's not me. But I think you always have those thoughts. Maybe you don't, maybe it's just me, but there was a lot of times in the beginning where I was like, I wish it was me. And I was angry that I was left to take care of everything and deal with everything. And you go through so many different emotions. It was just hard, but I never acted on anything. There was nothing where I was like, I want to do this, but you always have those thoughts, I feel like, in that circumstance. Maybe you don't, But, I also then I went and got treatment and therapy and all the things. So
Do you still go to counseling or no?
I do have a counselor. I have my PTSD specialist. I see her like once a month. We worked to get to the point where I only see her once a month, and then I still do ketamine infusions as needed.
Oh, I was gonna ask, but I wasn't gonna bring it up tomorrow. But I was kind of actually hoping you would mention that you did that.
Yeah, so that actually really helps with suicidal ideation too. So after my very first ketamine infusion, I never again thought about ending my life, suicidal ideation, nothing. And it's the weirdest thing. So like I literally never thought about that ever again. Even to this day, I don't really have, even when you think of, I don't know, it's just different. You just don't have those same thought patterns. So with the ketamine infusions, now I did infusion therapy. I've done actually both. I've done infusion therapy and like
Didn't you do the rapid eye, the ED,
I did that first, and it didn't really benefit me, but it was, over COVID, and it was like, I don't know. I didn't find I've done everything.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like it wasn't, to me, I was like, if I can put my feelings in this box and disassociate, I would do that. These are bigger than me. And so I just got really frustrated with it. And I don't know if it just didn't work for me or I didn't find the right person. But I tried it several times and, however long. And then I went into ketamine infusions with a therapist who specializes in ketamine infusion therapy. So I did the 6 infusions in 4 weeks and then did boosters as needed. And it completely like remapped my brain. And
I don't know much about that. But
it helps.
I also remember when you stopped drinking.
Yes.
You had like a different name for yourself when you were drinking.
Jackie.
I was gonna say Stacy, but it was Jackie. Yeah, Jackie.
No, that bitch can't hang. She likes to run away. I don't know. I'm just joking about that with Jordan the other day. We were at the gorge and he's like, oh, look at these hills. I ran up and down them several times. I took him to Beyond Wonderland. And I don't know, at one point I got upset in the night and there was a kid who hit me in the face with like this weird thing that he was swinging around. And I was mad that Jordan did not avenge me, I guess, to my life. So I was throwing a little fit and I was like storming up and down these hills thinking I could run away from him, but I'm wearing reflective chaps, assless chaps. So you can see me. And he's tall. Running around. Yeah, Jackie was a lot. And then we were getting back in the van to go back to our, like, from VIP to, like, go to our little area. We're sitting there waiting, and he's like, Jackie, get in the van. And I was like, rude. Yeah, so things like that, So if you have a Jackie, maybe you should look at your drinking. But, that was, good times. You have to, like,
You have to probably give yourself a lot of grace.
Yes. Yeah, it was a time. I mean, I feel like we all go through things, and if me sharing my journey and things that I did wrong or things that are like, you can learn from, then that's one other person. So, and grief is messy. There is no right way to figure it out. And when your spouse is gone and you no longer have your person and you're just living life, it's okay to go hour by hour and to not have it all together and to be a hot mess.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I miss you in real life. So we need to get you to Eugene, or you need to come get on the tour soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining in on the Confessions of a Group X Instructor podcast. If you're interested in becoming a warrior instructor, go to warriorinstructors.com. But if you want more and found this episode amazing, please give us a rating. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. So remember, be brave, be bold, be blessed. And above all, listen, learn, love.